what we were finding out, what we're doing about it. You understand the complexity of what the water features entail. This is not going to be an easy fix. I went back in 10 years and looked at the financials to see how much was being paid to repair and to keep up to speed the water features, the pumps, the piping, all that sort of thing. And not to anyone's surprise here, there was very little spent up until a year ago. And when the pumps started going down, and our lawns started burning up, and the streams went dry, there was a bit of a panic as to what in the world are we going to do here? Well, this goes back to understanding that we do live in an oasis, and through all the hard work of the fellows, people who spoke here, talked to us about, we moved here, and one of the things that was on our minds as we moved into this community was the beauty, the lush, the water. It happened to me, my wife. We looked out the back window and said, I like this. And maybe you did as well. Now this community is being torn apart by political ideals, religious ideals, and now we're in a community situation where if this adds to the problems of us remaining a cohesive, friendly place to live, there'll be a lot of people wanting to move from here. We moved here to retire. Did any of you? I see a lot of gray hair here, so I know. We're at a point of importance, and Joel and the rest of you have spoke here today and brought up some great ideas. There's no reason we can't maintain our water features with some planning, or change the way our community's put together. Maybe we all have to understand that we're going to have to do more xeriscaping. Maybe we all understand that we need to use less water in our yards. There's an easy way to do that. We convert city water. You know, there's a lot of people with a lot of issues as to whether that's right, wrong, indifferent, should we. I did. Folks on my street have, and I can tell you from my own experience at our home. It's been my prerogative to water as much as I wanted to water, because I didn't feel like I had to answer to anybody in the neighborhood as to how much I water. My yards come through the summer just fine. We've had less bugs. The grass is green, plants are alive, and when we leave home to go on a trip, I don't worry whether or not the pumps are going out and the lawns in my yard's going to burn up. You know, I don't know about you. I came home over a year ago from a couple of 3-week trip. My yard was completely brown because the pumps had gone out. Did that happen to any of you? Absolutely. It's happened to all of us. There are ways to deal with this, and Pat kind of led to it a little bit, but we all understand that we have not, as a community, used all of the intellectual power that's in this room and throughout our community as far as some pumps should be replaced, more efficient, more up to date, more technology can go in our pumping systems. With zero landscaping, where else can we save some money? Do we need security guards at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning rolling our streets? Is the reserves that have been put in our accounting system really the way that we should deal with it? I have no doubt that the work that James and the team have put together has led them to do what they felt like they needed to do. But I believe this, that the community is at a point. We need in our board some new faces, some fresh ideas from outside, and not get caught up in what's been happening in the past and where we're led to, that this is going to be the right thing to do. We need to do it differently going forward. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect something different. What happens? What's the definition of insanity? when you do the same things over and over again and expect different results. Can't do that. So I've said to many, I'm going to run for the board as well. And there are plenty in this room who should step up and say, okay, I've lived here, I need to get back. Maybe my ideas aren't the same as yours. That's okay. That's all right. That's what this is all about, is to get together and talk about the things we need to do. We need more, this community needs more participation in the committees so that we can get everyone's thought. We need more town meetings. We need more opportunity to get together like this and not get angry with each other, but to sit and talk about what the resolutions that be. So with that, I'm opposed to this. I'm in favor of folks who just spoke, and it's good. We're going to have to think this thing through long and hard. I have been to some of these meetings, and I heard Howard say, "Well, we're not voting." Well, I've been to enough meetings to know that conversations were had. We all left, and then they voted. So that can't happen on this deal. We need time to talk and to work our way through this before we just jump in to making this kind of a change with the due structure for our community.
Hi, I'm Ann Welber. I wasn't on the board with Joel, but I lived through it. We've been here a long time. I just want to make a couple points. Some of the people that have been speaking have said that this was a proposal. This is not a proposal. Nobody is saying we should do this. What it is, in my opinion, is a really positive way for us to look at what it costs to live here. And we have never known, really. There have been rumors and rumblings, but this is the first time we really know. And it is the first time that we can then go forward knowing what it costs. And I don't want us to vote. I think it's way too early to vote. I think we need to really have a lot more discussion.
I didn't want to break Claire's flow, but I think there's one thing that I think is important for you to understand. I wanted to get a handle on the cost of electricity and water from the standpoint of the city, where they thought things were going. And I don't have all of the information for the water. It's complex, and there are a number of things that I need to sort out. So I can't report on that directly, and I think James may be in better stead. But I spent an hour with Lori Mangum, who is the director of power for the St. George City. And I felt really optimistic when I went out of that meeting. We have a lot of energy sources that are replenishable. We're on a lot of hydroelectric that we get. We also have a lot of solar that we're tapping into, and we're phasing out of coal. We'll be out of our coal contract in 2 years. And she told me that they won't anticipate any raise in our electricity costs until 2023, and then it will only be 2%. Now, those are her words. I don't know whether you can nail her to the wall on that, but I wanted to report that because I think that's relevant as we look forward to what it's going to cost us for electricity. And it's already been alluded to that there may be some savings we can get in our water. The more we can get our costs down for water from the way we utilize it from the club. I know we're going over more what they allot us to, and that means we have to kick in culinary water. That's expensive for putting that in our water feature. So there are a number of things we can look at, but I was very encouraged about some of the comments that have been made about using our intellect, working together to solve these problems. I think as we do that, we're going to be very successful.
Yes, my name is Gary Sandberg, and my wife and I bought our home here. We actually bought one of the first homes in Paiute. I think we were one of the first 4 ever to move into Paiute. And we have loved being able to come down here. And I want to congratulate the board for putting this together. I consider everyone in this room my neighbors, even though I don't know many of you, but as neighbors, I also consider you friends and potential good friends as we get better acquainted. We live in Salt Lake and are here more infrequently than we would like. However, I want to echo the spirit that has been stated here, one of community. I think that needs to be of utmost importance to us, because if this community starts to fracture, we all suffer. We all suffer. And even though it probably, this proposal, I'd never seen it until this board was put up. In fact, I hadn't even heard about the potential Paiute Spring exiting. I haven't heard a peep about that. So evidently it hasn't made it down to my part of the Paiute Spring neighborhood. And I'm glad of that, because I live in peaceful ignorance. Anyway, I just want to say that when I bought my home, when we bought our home, we bought a home that had no water feature. I can't even see a water feature that is within my view, although I can see up the second or the 4th fairway. We live right at the green on number 3. And we put in our own water feature, and I paid to have that, and I paid to maintain it and do so. And I do so because that was our decision to do it. And so I'm not here complaining about that. I have thought in years past, when I saw a breakout of those homes that have, one time I saw one that showed people with a water feature on their property or adjacent to their property was a different allocation than ones that didn't have it. And I was told, this is many years ago, that, well, that's only for the community. We don't do it by individual home, we do it by the community. So I accepted that, and we've been paying our share of those dues throughout the years, even though we have our own, put our own feature in and enjoy it. But having said all of that, I again want to congratulate the board for doing this. I welcome the suggestion that this group have more opportunities to come together and discuss issues and problems, and I think we will find a homogeneity to this group, that we all care deeply about where we live, and that as we do so, we will elevate this whole community, and we will be beneficiaries thereof. So thank you for your time.
We can address, it's just the right forum, talk about whether flipping the water from culinary to gray. It's not the right forum.
No, unless it has to do with things that have been discussed here, we're welcome to do that on the 5th of October. We got
I
lots
want
of
to get into
time.
another subject, and then get 10 more comments.
Going once?
Does this only affect those 5 neighborhoods that were on the board, or does it affect the entire community?
That's correct. The board must make some decisions for the budget and next year's dues and all assessments. We have to decide that by October so that can be put in place. So this, one uncertainty is what to do about the 5 water patio with water feature homes. If you live in any of the other communities, the dues are gonna be whatever it takes to cover the costs in your respective neighborhood.
Dues will be whatever it costs to cover your dues. That's absolutely.
They would not be affected.
No, nothing we've talked about today affects patio homes without water. None of it affects the inns, none of it affects custom homes. Nothing we've talked about affects.
Can I come up and make one comment?
Pardon me?
Can I come up and make one comment?
Sure.
Hi, my name is John Haddo, and I currently live in Kachina Springs East 2. I just recently sold a house in Kachina Springs East 1. I have to admit, I've sort of ambivalent about the water, but my wife loves it, so that means I'm gonna have to. And so, and I do think that there are solutions we can find. My one concern, long-term, which was addressed here, is that we live in a desert. And Sun River is projected to double their size. And anybody that's driven to the airport, as you get close to the airport, you see how many Ents homes are out there now, and you see the development they're doing just so you get on the road. And they need water. Those people are gonna want water to drink. And water's a finite resource, and so we need to lock down. My other comment is that those of us that play golf noticed along number 6, the issue where we had a leak. And this is an aging system. And we need to start putting, the board will have to address that. Long term, this system is over 20 years old, and it's gonna have more and more problems. So we need to start putting more and more money aside to fix the water features. That leak is only symptomatic. Virgin River cut Zion's Canyon and that gorge. This is just water running down about this much concrete, and it's gonna erode it over time. And I do believe that we ought to keep the water features as long as we can. We ought to operate them as most efficiently as we can. It'll make my wife happy, therefore make me happy. I have a wife and 4 daughters, I have no rough edges. And so, but we need to look at we can't look at what's gonna happen 1, 2, 3 years. We need to start looking 10 years down the road. And to Steve's comment, we have the cheapest electricity per kilowatt in the Washington County area. So I'm a little nervous about saying we're not gonna have any price increases. If everybody else starts going up and they're cheaper than us, we're going up too. And part of the reason we're where we are is rural electric subsidy. And you outgrow that at some point. And once you outgrow that, you gotta cover those costs. So those are long-term issues, 5, 10 years down the road. We gotta start being prepared to address them now. So, thank you.
I'm B.A. Secret, I live in Kachina, 2331. I don't have a presentation, but I just have a question that maybe for the board. We've had some talks about the cost of electricity, and I also heard today about the county and solar ideas to supplement. Has there been any discussion of us as a community to do something on our own to supplement our electricity with solar?
That would be a good thing to talk about at the 5th of October.
I'm talking about in Trodden.
The use of solar here would be a
My
good.
question is, are we doing it? Not whether we should.
I'd like to add something to solar.
The ask-
I've lived here for 3 years, 3.5 years, and I've asked 3 or 4 times about solar, with different vendors, and I can never make it work financially. I was talking about a 20-year payback. And that's a lot of money up front to get that. That's because so I had one solar guy who didn't want to talk to me when I found out it wasn't thinking. He said, don't even bother.
We have one of our board members, in fact, it's the board member who's not here today, who's very much an advocate of solar. Those who are familiar with solar processes and the solar collection and generation of electricity can tell you it takes lots of real estate. And we ain't got lots of real estate that we can spread solar panels on to make a difference on.
I have one other thing.
Let's talk about this at the 5th of October.
Dixie State University has developed a wind turbine, not those big monster ones, but smaller ones. And they expect to have that, you know, sort of in a more of a prototype, next 6 to 8 months that we need to look at. We have enough land in places where we can put that kind of stuff.
There's wind.
All right,
We got a lot of wind.
Anybody else want to address it? Right? Jumped on wind. Part of my background, we spent time working on solar farms, supplying material for solar farms and for windmills, the big guys. So I understand enough to be a bit dangerous when we talk solar and wind. None of that works in a home or a small community unless the government subsidizes it. Let's leave it at that. The question about, comment about the streams that go along in our place. And the leak we just had over on 6. Went over, spent time, looked it all over, and for those of you who play golf, you saw that run down. It concerned me the minute it happened. Here's what's happening with and the way our streams are put together. First of all, a rubber liner was placed in the streams. The concrete is merely to hold the rubber liner in place. The concrete is going to crack. Have you ever seen concrete that didn't crack? Only if it has a huge amount of rebar in it, and even at that point, then the rebar rusts out and so forth. Our streams are built with rubber liner, the concrete to protect it and to hold it in place. The problem with that particular situation, and we should all be looking at, if you have a stream, is where the grass, if this were the stream, and the grass comes along, and on every one of them, the concrete comes up to the edge of the grass. In this particular situation, and along that area where you folks live, and Huddleston, you guys live, if the water coming off your lawn is going down and under the rubber liner, that's what created that leak over there. And the fact that on that particular site, when they put that stream in, at that site where that leaked, it was at a low point in the berm along there. That berm's got to be built up and replaced, and that can be fixed nicely. But we have to, as a homeowner, not as the association, I believe as a homeowner, you need to be doing some watching what's going on with your streams, because in this case, the water was going off the grass, under the liner, and creating a problem downstream where that leak was. So there's more to this than just, well, let's just let, the board, let's go Coral and complain, and they'll run right over and fix this edge. That's not gonna happen. So, we've all got yards. Go out there and see what's going on, and if you need to hire somebody, or go out there and fix it yourself. This is not rocket science. This is just taking care of some irrigation water running off your yard.
Ray,
Yeah.
along that same line, because I did see that, and I told Ray about it. And I talked to the young man who was there doing some repair work the day that the water went into the golf course area. And he showed me, I think it was 3 or 4 cracks in the concrete behind, on 6th, behind 3 of the houses. And like Ray said, concrete is gonna crack. And I agree with homeowners watching that from their own perspective on their lots. But a lot of that also comes from the golf course watering. If you go up there and look sometimes, you'll see when the golf course is watering the sides, they don't do it very often. All of that water goes up on the side of the hill and comes down. That goes under there also. I think the golf course has to be told that they may be causing a problem there too.
Anybody else that would like to speak?
I just have a question. The water features, what other use do they have other than just being a water feature? I mean, are they supplying the golf course with water, or
No.
using it for
Our
emergencies?
water features all use water that the ECOA, that all of us in this room buy, whether you're a member equity member of the club play golf or not, water features are decorative. They don't
Right,
serve
so
any
the
other
golf course
purpose than
doesn't
that.
use the water for any of their own.
The water features do in Kachina Springs East 1 and a significant portion of the time in Kachina Springs East 2. Also, the same water that is used in the water features is also used on the, to irrigate lawns. But other than that, there's no practical use for them. They're decorative.
All of the water features are also part of the drainage system.
Repeat that, Howard?
Yeah, James reminds us, and that's particularly true in Paiute, but it's true elsewhere as well. The water features are part of the storm drainage system, or it's collecting rainfall and so on. That's a useful point. James, anything else? All right.
Just a question, on this poll that you're gonna send out for us to make a decision, there was a kind of a third option there, and that was to leave things as they are for a year to 2 years while a study is done to try to reduce north and south. Is that gonna be on that option if you send out a poll, that option of, well, we can leave it where it is today, take a reduction, but this is still
The
gonna be
answer
a
is
process
no,
study?
but the answer is that the board is looking at a variety of things. Remember, this is an advisory poll. We're just interested in how people feel and how they think it ought to get done. Do we think we ought to be heading in the direction of dues by neighborhood, assessments by neighborhood, or should we be leaving things there? We're interested in your ideas there. The board will be looking at a variety of options. It's not necessarily black and white at the board level, and there's no way we could put 87 options on this poll and have it make any sense.
So is this poll gonna be, however this poll comes out, that's gonna be your major
No,
determination?
that will be a factor that the board uses. The board will certainly be looking at ways to go about this in a more, if there are options, the board will be considering them. I promise you that what you've heard here today, I'm sure has given all of us ideas.
Can we include like a comments section in the poll? Yes, no, or
Well, I
comments?
although I would suggest that your emails, and I think I mentioned earlier, we've received 77 of them, are comment sections. So please don't hesitate to continue to send emails to us in the form of comments. We read them all. I can't tell you every board member's read every one, but I can assure you that most board members have read most of them. And a number of us have read every one, so suggestions are welcome there. And the ideas presented here are going to be useful to us as well.
Refresh us when the budget is finalized.
29th of, the board meeting at the 29th of October, held in the clubhouse in the meeting rooms downstairs, the 29th. The budget, the numbers that we have to work with are numbers that pretty much what you've seen already. I've just distilled a couple of key numbers here that pertain to this, pertain to the water features. But the numbers having to do with the master, 118 bucks and so on a month, that's probably within a buck of what it's going to turn out to be, unless something pops up unexpectedly. Claire?
Will we have a tally, us have a tally of the poll that you're
Yes.
doing? So that will be public information?
We will publish the results of the poll. Yes, and again, the reason that you have all this is somebody, I think it was Mrs. Welber mentioned that this is not a proposal from the board today to divide things up by neighborhood. This is, as she pointed out, these are facts. It's presenting you the information in response to questions that have been asked. This is not a proposal from the board. Okay, and the answer is we try to be as transparent as we can. People ask to see the data, we generated it. We're asking for an advisory vote, we'll share the results of that with you.
Howard, I just wanted to say that this was an exceptionally good meeting. I'm glad that
Thank you, Bill. I jokingly asked the board whether they would pay for my purchase of a Kevlar vest. That they refused, and I'm happy to report, at least so far, that it hasn't been needed.
We were worried about distracting.
But I would second what Bill has said, and that is that I applaud the general spirit of this meeting, the civility that's been shared. I do agree that the feelings have been aired, but they've been, I think, appreciated by all of us. And I think you also appreciate the challenges that we faced in coming up with an answer. We're going to work hard on it. Okay?
I just want, I had no idea that when you made this decision to convert water to Paiute, that if we ever Paiute be having so many small homes, inexpensive homes, would be, if they decided to even do away with their water features, that responsibility, part of that responsibility would be assessed back to Paiute.
That's a proposal. We have not made a decision, and of course, that decision is no decision if the things stay combined. But you should also understand that the reason for that decision, I've got the appropriate topic for the meeting. Of the 5 neighborhoods, 4 of those neighborhoods, the water features are supplied with secondary water, some people call it gray water, from the same water that's used to irrigate the golf course. Paiute was not that way. There was no secondary water available in Entrada when Paiute was built, and so Paiute water features were filled with culinary water. That's expensive water. And so the board, a couple of years ago, long before this topic arose, said, the chances of us getting a summons from the city to cease and desist with culinary water and Paiute water features is a very real possibility. So we chose to put out the money that it would take to convert Paiute water features to secondary water. So was that expensive? Yes. Right now, it's carried on the books amongst all neighborhoods. The board would have to decide, but clearly one thought is that if dues by neighborhood were implemented, would it make sense to suggest that Paiute ought to pay for it? I might explain that it would be over a period of years, and while it would change the dynamic some, would not change the dynamic tremendously. We'll have those numbers for you.
I just want you to know, there is a rumor going around, I hear it over and over, that culinary water is actually cheaper than.
It's not.
Okay, well then.
It's
that needs-
absolutely not.
Yeah, that needs to be sent out and talked about in the meeting, because I've heard it from so many people that the city.
James, do you happen to know the numbers?
Culinary water is more expensive because of the volume we're using through a certain meter. That's why we wanted to do that conversion, so that we can get some lower rates based on your individual home. So the first 5,000 gallons is put in your base rate. The next 5,000 is $1 a thousand. And then it goes up from there to where we've been quoted to $3 per thousand. And that's at the top tier that we're using in a lot of places. The one thing we gotta consider that's never brought up is our biggest water use is not the pond, it's our own irrigation of our own yards. And those of us who have grass, you're using a lot of water versus the ones who have more of a desert state. And that's probably the biggest way we can save money, is to start cutting down on our grass.
I didn't think we were gonna talk about that at all today, but at the recommendation, when I built a new house in Chena Springs East 2, I went to culinary. Prior to that, in my other house, we were using about 2,800 gallons a month with EPA watering our lawn. I'm pretty sure this is about everybody that's converted to culinary for their own irrigation, about 45 to 50,000 gallons a month. And you're seeing a water bill of about $90, $95. Now, how they solve that next meeting, but culinary water will cost you more because it's progressive
Will
metering.
cost you more in the summer, will cost you Zippo in the winter. So the numbers that we're talking about are let's discuss this at the
Yeah,
5th of
I
October.
thought we were gonna do.
Going once, going twice? Thank you.